The inspection tour began in Newcastle County, winding its way south through the farmlands of Rich Valley and Summit Hills, all the way to the southern checkpoint at Vista Peak. From there, it would veer east, covering the 5 counties of the Sterling region and the greater Fort Williams area, before turning north for a summit with the 3 clans of the Red River. The return journey would cut through the plains of Arlington County before concluding at the state capital. The route was punishing, but Caleb Vance spent most of his time on horseback, riding alongside the state's military brass. At every county line, at every local militia outpost, he would personally climb the watchtowers, meet with the rank-and-file officers, and oversee the distribution of supplies he had brought. Generous shipments of grain, textiles, winter gear, and new armaments. The ordinary troopers saw a young man in tactical gear, his features sharp and composed, his presence radiating an effortless authority. Yet he spoke with a disarming warmth. He would taste their mess hall food, feel the fabric of their standard-issue jackets, and ask about the chill and the long hours. He made inquiries about their hometowns, their families, and he would even join them on the firing range, his marksmanship with a rifle proving both precise and impressive. The bonuses he handed out were substantial. The men responded with an excited and genuine affection, viewing his visit as a high honor that sent morale soaring. Sean, one of the security details, even remarked quietly to Liam that the young Vance was a formidable character who understood the art of winning loyalty. Sean figured that by walking through every single outpost like this, even if the commanders weren't fully on board, the majority of the troopers would now have him in their minds. He reasoned that most people in uniform weren't aiming for a grand career. They just wanted a better life, and they'd be loyal to whoever provided for them. Liam suggested that any of the scions from the capital's political dynasties could pull off the same performance. He told Sean they were all masters of public perception, playing the part of the benevolent and compassionate leader. The recent turn of events that had forced him back into Caleb's service had left a bitter taste in his mouth, and with Sean he felt he could speak freely. Sean, not quite grasping the theatrical metaphor, just thought he meant Caleb was acting like a true leader should. He simply chuckled and said that Caleb was one of the better ones. He pointed out that for everyday people and soldiers, tangible benefits were all that mattered. They didn't care who was in charge as long as life was good. Liam considered this and had to admit that Caleb was, in fact, a remarkably decent man to work for. He realized his own cynicism was a direct result of his personal misfortunes, an anger he was unfairly projecting. He resolved then to conduct himself with professional clarity, to maintain the proper boundary between an employer and his aide. He was certain Caleb would understand. In the following days, he set aside his negativity, reverting to the cautious, silent, and impeccably diligent assistant he had always been. Caleb, for his part, found this change deeply satisfying. For weeks, he'd felt something was amiss. With Liam back by his side, he finally understood what it was. It wasn't that others were careless, or that Liam made better coffee or had neater handwriting. It was an intuitive attentiveness that was irreplaceable. If Caleb moved his hands, Liam was there to roll up his sleeves. A single cough and a glass of water would appear. When Caleb grew weary of a meeting, Liam would find a subtle way to signal to the officials that it was time to depart. A mere glance was enough for Liam to know precisely what to do. He anticipated everything, handling all matters with a quiet patience and grace. Caleb had once thought of him merely as a clever aide, exceptionally skilled at reading people. Now he began to think differently. Perhaps it was because Liam's focus was always on him, always considering his needs first, that made him more attentive and thorough than anyone else. He remembered years ago how Liam had been able to distinguish his handwriting from a pile of others, a testament to his profound focus. Moreover, Liam possessed a calming stillness. He seemed content just to be near, never demanding a response or validation like others did, who withered without constant attention. Caleb was too preoccupied, too consumed by his own struggles, to meticulously care for those around him. Liam's way was perfect. A silent, observant presence that never intruded, never asked for anything in return. Caleb was unaware that this attitude would, centuries later, be condemned as a trifecta of passive, noncommittal, and irresponsible behavior. He only knew, in a purely selfish way, that the dynamic was comfortable. And so, he treated Liam with increasing gentleness. Liam, whose only real goal was to eventually leave this life behind, paid it no mind. A strange equilibrium settled between them. The awkward caution of the past few weeks dissolved, replaced by their former natural ease, now deepened with a new, unspoken understanding. After more than a fortnight of travel, the convoy reached the lush meadows bordering the White Wolf River. It was the height of summer. The sky was a startling, cloudless blue, so deep it seemed to merge with the hazy, distant mountains. The riverbanks were thick with vibrant wildflowers and tall grasses. A cool, damp breeze carried the faint, sweet scent of blossoms and earth, an intoxicating perfume that made a slow ride through the valley feel like a dream. The 3 chieftains of the Red River clans had already received word and were waiting. A series of stark white tents dotted the plains. Timothy, the commander of the Doe clan, was there with his deputy, Tobin. From the Crane clan came Chief Hawthorne and his second, Carter. And representing the Bear clan were Chief Hayden and his lieutenant, Alistair. They had all brought their finest riders. Behind them, a formidable line of warriors in leather armor stood beside their horses, their collective presence a wave of raw, untamed power. Caleb dismounted. Flanked by the towering figures of the clan leaders, he appeared almost slender, his bearing more intellectual than martial. Yet he moved with a calm, deliberate elegance through the corridor of armed warriors. He walked without hesitation across a priceless woven blanket of lamb's wool. His ceremonial jacket, embroidered with a golden eagle in flight, shifting with his movements. The gold circlet in his hair glinted in the sunlight, and his handsome, serene face seemed almost divine, a countenance of such refined composure it was difficult to meet his gaze directly. Timothy, leading the other chieftains, knelt in accordance with tradition. His powerful frame, like that of a lion forced to bow, submitted to the young man. Caleb smiled and helped them to their feet, walking with them toward the center of the encampment. A massive pyre of wood, draped with white silks and flowers, stood waiting. Timothy explained with a grin that it was their custom for an honored guest to light the ceremonial fire. An attendant stepped forward, presenting a beautifully adorned compound bow and a single arrow wrapped in silk, its tip already aflame. The pyre was a good 100 yards away. The flame on the arrowhead burned fiercely. The bow was clearly a hydra-weight model. This was, without a doubt, a subtle but genuine test of strength and skill. Caleb raised an eyebrow. Behind him, Ray Armour, the deputy director of the State Administrative Division who was accompanying the tour, tensed his shoulder, ready to step forward and accept the challenge. Caleb, however, gently stopped him with a hand gesture. He remarked that the distance was too close from here. He turned and requested his own horse. The animal was brought forward, and Caleb swung himself into the saddle. Leaning down, he took the bow and arrow from Timothy's hands. With a slight pressure of his legs, he sent the horse galloping several hundred yards back. Then, in one fluid motion, he wheeled the horse around, drew the bow to its full extent, and released. The flaming arrow shot through the air, a straight and swift line of fire, carrying an unstoppable force. It pierced the heart of the decorative flower arrangement at the very top of the pyre. A shower of sparks erupted, and the oil-soaked wood ignited with a great whoosh. A roar of approval went up from the assembled clan members and their warriors. It was as if a signal had been given. The bonfire blazed to life. The joyful, galloping rhythm of a fiddle started up, joined by the steady beat of drums. Young women from the clans, dressed in brightly colored skirts, joined hands and began to dance around the fire, the tiny bells on their ankles and wrists creating a crisp, percussive melody. Their laughter carried far across the plains. In the distance, Caleb sat motionless on his horse, a silhouette of straight-backed, elegant strength against the fire's glow. His long coat billowed in the wind. The sun was setting, and the last rays of twilight cast a golden halo around his poised figure. Sean and Liam, as junior members of the security and support staff, were not permitted on the ceremonial blanket. They stood at a distance behind the main officials watching the display. Sean murmured, almost to himself, that it was hard not to want to follow a man like that. He mused that if he were a woman, his heart would surely be lost. Liam watched Caleb from afar and, for a rare moment, did not think of him as a mere political player. He had to concede that this young man, meticulously groomed by his powerful family, truly possessed the talents to both build and defend a nation. He had earned his pride, and he possessed a charisma that naturally drew people to him. It was for this reason that when his family's political fortunes had turned, so many influential figures had lamented his fall, risking their own standing to petition on his behalf. The party moved into the largest tent, where Caleb was surrounded by the clan leaders. Liam quietly positioned himself behind Caleb, kneeling to pour wine for him from a silver pitcher. He watched as Caleb conversed fluently in the local dialect with the chieftains, his tone perfectly balanced, dignified but not aloof, noble but not cold. He deftly mixed promises of aid with firm reminders of his authority, offering incentives while establishing clear boundaries. Liam felt a fresh wave of admiration. It was no wonder Caleb's mother had invested so much in him. Honestly, if he had a son like Caleb, he too would move heaven and earth to see him rise to the highest office. The feast was lavish. Wine and roasted lamb were served in endless abundance, and the mood was convivial. Midway through the meal, a woman veiled in sheer silk began to dance. Her movements were fluid, the golden bells on her costume jingling with every step. When she unveiled her face, it was flushed with a natural rosy hue, exceptionally beautiful. Her eyes, a deep and captivating brown, were different from those of the local settlers, framed by long upturned lashes. Timothy clapped his hands and, smiling, told Caleb that he had heard the young Vance's personal life was quiet at present. He presented the dancer as his own daughter, claiming that no flower on the prairie was as beautiful, no jewel as brilliant. He offered, if Caleb was not displeased, to have her attend to him for the night. This was a custom among some of the more traditional clans, offering an unmarried daughter to a guest of great honor. Timothy, of course, was making his most valuable offer to the most powerful man in their territory. Caleb politely refused, explaining that he was still in a period of mourning for his mother, which had not yet concluded. He said that drinking with them was already a departure from propriety, done only out of respect for their local customs. As for other matters, he expressed his gratitude for the generous offer but insisted he could not accept. Timothy, showing no offense, remarked that he respected the formal traditions of the capital. He did not press the issue, and the girl withdrew, her disappointment clear. The conversation soon turned back to matters of territory and trade. By the time the feast concluded, it was late into the night. Outside, The distant sounds of singing and laughter from the clan encampments could still be heard. Caleb had drunk a fair amount, and his face was flushed. Liam helped him back to the main tent, prepared hot water for him to wash, and assisted him out of his formal clothes before helping him into bed. Once Caleb was settled, Liam stepped outside. Sean was on guard duty and quietly pulled him aside. He told Liam he had saved him a flask of the local whiskey, a truly exceptional brew, sweet, fragrant, with a refreshing tartness. He swore that all the other versions he'd tasted before were like swill compared to this one, which had been chilled over ice blocks before serving. Liam chuckled and told Sean to drink it himself, reminding him he was still on duty and couldn't risk it. Sean glanced surreptitiously back at the tent and whispered that Caleb had drunk a lot and was surely sound asleep. He urged Liam to have a little, insisting no one would know. He knew Liam loved a good drink and must have been tempted all evening while pouring for others. His voice suddenly died in his throat. Liam turned to see Caleb, his hair unbound, standing just inside the tent flap with an expression that was half amused, half knowing. He had clearly heard everything. Liam felt a flush of embarrassment. Sean, flustered, gave a clumsy salute and stammered that he was just asking Liam about some trivial matter and was about to leave. He turned to flee, but Caleb stopped him, asking for the hidden whiskey. Sean's face fell. He glanced at Liam, who stood silently with his head bowed, before reluctantly handing over the silver flask he'd concealed in his coat. Caleb took it, felt its considerable weight, and smiled at Sean. He then looked at Liam, remarking that his friend, the security chief, was truly sincere in his offer, as it felt like he'd poured 2 flasks into one. Liam explained that Sean was a rough-and-tumble man, unfamiliar with formal etiquette, and asked Caleb not to blame him. Caleb, however, ignored the excuse and asked Liam directly if he was fond of whiskey. Liam felt a bit cornered. Caleb looked up at the star-filled sky. A cool, damp breeze swept through the camp. He said he was feeling the effects of the wine and the tent was stuffy. He suggested they go for a walk by the river to clear their heads and have another drink. Liam knew that the entire area, including the riverbank, was heavily patrolled by guards stationed every 20 feet, so it was perfectly safe. He didn't object and accompanied Caleb to the edge of the White Wolf River. Caleb sat down on the grassy bank, looking at the ceaseless flow of the water. He patted the spot beside him and told Liam to sit as well. Liam, without any fuss, knelt slightly behind and to the side of him. Caleb passed him the flask and told him to drink, remarking that the whiskey was indeed good, and he didn't want Liam complaining later that he was a harsh employer. Liam looked up at him. Caleb's face was impassive, but his dark eyes seemed to hold a hint of teasing humor. The distinct, fragrant aroma of the whiskey reached Liam, and his throat tightened. He had, in truth, been craving a drink all evening. He took the flask and, in a somewhat unrefined manner, drank 2 large mouthfuls directly from it. Once he started, the craving took hold and was difficult to suppress. He took a deep breath, savoring the rich, sweet flavor, far superior to anything he had tasted before. He could only imagine how magnificent it would be properly chilled. Seeing the look of faint satisfaction on Liam's face as he drank, a small smile touched Caleb's lips. He found it surprisingly amusing that his perpetually reserved had harbored such a spirited, unrestrained passion. He thought of how well Liam usually concealed it. He must only indulge himself when far from his duties. A wave of sympathy washed over him. He told Liam to drink as much as he wanted, reassuring him that as long as the 3 clans continued to pay their dues and maintain their allegiance, there would be no trouble that night. He wouldn't be needing his services. Liam felt a little awkward. Noticing his discomfort, Caleb smiled, stood up, and walked a few steps closer to the riverbank. He gazed out at the dark water, then pulled a small harmonica from his coat pocket. He brought it to his lips and began to play, the melody drifting out over the river, a tune that was both elegant and tinged with a subtle melancholy, a feeling of being far from home. The starlight cast a soft glow, and the cool breeze carried the music through the night. Liam, feeling more at ease, took a few more sips from the flask. He watched Caleb playing alone and thought of how, in the past, his other confidant, Julian, would have been there to accompany him on a guitar, their evening filled with music and poetry. Now, far from home, Caleb was left with only him, an aide who knew nothing of music and could offer no sophisticated companionship. Stripped of his father's support and his mother's protection, Caleb seemed truly alone. By the time Liam had finished the entire flask, Caleb stopped playing. He led him back to the tent. After that, Liam's memory grew hazy. The full force of the whiskey must have hit him all at once. His last clear recollection was of Caleb's dark eyes, as deep and silent as the night sky, looking down at him. He thought he felt a blanket being pulled over him and heard Caleb's voice, softened by a smile, telling him to sleep, that he was off duty. When Liam awoke, he heard hushed voices speaking on the other side of a tapestry divider. He recognized the voice of Ray Armour, the deputy director. Armour was saying that while it was a kind gesture, accepting the women into the governor's residence was not the same as a formal marriage alliance. He argued that the three clans were a crucial buffer in the Northeast Territories, and a marriage tie was the simplest and most effective way to secure their loyalty. He suggested that all Caleb needed to do was accept the 20 women into his household now, and after the official mourning period ended, he could grant them some minor status. Caleb replied that Armour's point was valid. However, he noted that among the clans, it was common for powerful men to have harems of servant girls and to offer their daughters to guests. He doubted that accepting 1 or even 10 more women would make much of a difference. He had heard that their local custom, unlike their own tradition of primogeniture, was for the youngest son to inherit the family home and assets. He proposed a different strategy. They could ask the chieftains to recommend their favored sons for positions. The older ones could be given administrative roles in the capital, while the younger ones could be sent to academies to study, perhaps to serve as companions for his own heir someday. He felt this would be a much more effective way of ensuring their loyalty. Armour was silent for a moment before conceding that the young Vance's plan was indeed farsighted. He then suggested that they could pursue both strategies simultaneously. There was no harm in accepting the 20 women as well. Caleb laughed and agreed there was no harm. He clarified that he had only refused due to his mother's mourning period. He mentioned that the camels, ginseng, and deer antlers presented by the three clans were all of exceptional quality, and they might as well accept the women too. He then instructed Armour to distribute them as gifts among the military officers. As for Timothy's daughter, he casually suggested that if Armour himself was interested, he should take her. Armour was taken aback for a second, then chuckled and said that, in that case, he would thank him on behalf of the men. Caleb then changed the subject, asking if Armour had found a suitable candidate for the position of chief strategist. Armour reported that he had heard of a certain Leo Wenning, a recluse living as a scholar in the Wolf-Tooth Mountains. The man was said to be brilliant, a master of history, politics, astronomy, and geography, with a deep understanding of all major philosophical schools. He was described as a true nation builder, though he was also known to be eccentric and aloof, rarely seeing visitors. Caleb said that if the man was as talented as described, he would go and personally invite him. Armour added that Wenning's writings were known for their profound and elegant style, far surpassing the mundane. He suggested Caleb could seek them out to judge for himself. Caleb nodded, agreeing that it sounded like the man was not just an empty vessel. He decided that after the inspection tour was complete, he would lead a party to the mountains to recruit him. The two men then discussed the rest of the itinerary before Armor took his leave. Caleb pushed aside the tapestry and entered the main chamber, where he saw Liam already dressed and groomed, his hair neatly tied back, looking as immaculate as ever. He smiled, remarking that Liam was surprisingly well behaved. Even when drunk, he just slept silently without so much as turning over. Liam lowered his head, apologizing for his lapse in conduct and for neglecting his duties. Caleb, still smiling, told him it was no matter. He explained that everyone had had a lot to drink the previous night, so he had canceled the day's travel plans to allow everyone to recover. He told Liam not to be so formal around him after all these years. He then instructed him to start packing their things, as they would be heading back the next day, with a few more stops along the way. As Liam acknowledged the order, Caleb added that he should go get some breakfast. Later, he said he would take a few guards along with Sean and go for a ride. The scenery was beautiful, perfect for clearing one's head. Then, a grin spread across his face. He told Liam he had shamelessly asked for a large quantity of the clan's whiskey on his way out, and it was all for him. He mentioned their prized antler wine as well, but said it was probably not suitable for a young man like him, otherwise he would have given him that too. Liam's face, usually so composed, flushed with warmth. He bowed and quickly excused himself. Caleb, finally finding a way to tease his perpetually serious aide, felt a rare sense of amusement. He even began to mentally catalog the collection of rare liquors in his private cellar: rose liqueur, lotus-infused spirits, gifts from his father. He thought that, in the future, he might reward Liam with a bottle whenever he did something that pleased him. After breakfast, Liam found Sean and his partner, Dean, and told them about Caleb's plan for a ride. Sean was thrilled, complaining that he was bored of the rigid protocols of the inspection tour. It was midday when Caleb, dressed in riding gear, set out with Sean, Dean, Liam, and a handful of elite guards. The horses were top-notch, and the open prairie invited a thrilling gallop. The speed was exhilarating. Sean let out whoops of joy and occasional shouts, his excitement infectious. Even Liam felt a sense of liberation and release. They rode hard for nearly 2 hours before finally slowing to a walk, their horses breathing heavily. Caleb, drenched in sweat but with a smile on his face, was clearly in high spirits. He turned to speak to them but was interrupted by a low, rumbling sound from the north. Dean's expression shifted. He identified it as the thundering of a large herd of horses. Their primary duty was to protect Caleb, and such a sound immediately put them on high alert. The guards closed rank around Caleb, drawing their weapons. Sean announced he would scout ahead and spurred his horse toward the sound. A short while later, they saw him galloping back, smiling. He shouted that it was just a herd of wild mustangs and they just needed to move aside. Everyone felt a jolt of excitement. Caleb remarked that this was a rare sight, as wild horses often had to contend with wolf packs and were consequently tougher and more alert than domesticated ones. He noted that a skilled horseman might even be able to capture one or two. Soon, on the horizon where the earth met the sky, a dark, churning mass appeared. A herd of wild horses was storming across the plains, a whirlwind of motion heading in their direction. The sound of their hooves was like rolling thunder, shaking the very ground beneath them. As they drew closer, they could see there were over 100 animals. Wild mustangs were different from their domestic counterparts. Their manes were over 1 foot long, flowing like silk, and while they were slightly smaller, Their bodies were compact and powerful, radiating raw energy and speed. Dean let out a soft exclamation, pointing out that someone was trying to rope one. Caleb and the others focused their gaze and saw a lone rider trailing the herd. He was hunched low over his horse, chasing them relentlessly, a lasso swinging in his hand. Suddenly, he maneuvered his horse to the front of the herd, ahead of the lead stallion. In a flash of skill, he threw the lasso, neatly catching the lead horse, a magnificent, fiery red stallion. The captured horse reared up, letting out a wild, piercing cry, but its speed was checked, and it began to fall away from the herd. The rider calmly used the rope to close the distance between them. When his horse was running neck and neck with the wild stallion, he performed a breathtaking feat. With incredible agility, he leaped from his own horse onto the back of the wild one. The move was so bold and athletic that even Caleb couldn't help but call out in admiration. With no saddle, stirrups, or reins, using only the lasso for control, the rider began a life-or-death struggle with the furious stallion. The horse bucked and kicked, rearing up and charging wildly, almost frantic in its efforts to throw him. Liam held his breath, fearing for the rider's safety. But the man was clearly a master. He clung to the wild horse's back, his hands gripping its mane, moving with its every violent twist and turn. The spectacle was electrifying. Caleb, grinning, urged his own horse forward, telling the others to follow. They trailed the rider for some distance, watching as he gradually wore down the spirited stallion until, exhausted, it finally slowed its pace and submitted. The rider, finally able to relax, looked up and saw the group that had been following him. He raised a hand in a friendly gesture and called out, asking if they were locals. Caleb returned the gesture, praising his incredible skill. The man was clearly an open and friendly sort. He rode closer. He had a high-bridged nose, deep-set eyes, and handsome, rugged features, not entirely of settler stock, likely with some native blood. He introduced himself as Rain and asked if they had any water, explaining that he'd been chasing this herd for days and had finally managed to catch this one. He patted the neck of the now-tamed red horse, his affection for the animal evident. Caleb introduced himself and said they had plenty of water. He motioned to Liam, but Sean, ever impulsive, had already unstrapped a leather canteen from his saddle and tossed it over. He declared that a moment like this called for whiskey, not water. Rain caught it, uncorked it, and sniffed. His eyes lit up when he smelled the alcohol. Thanking Sean, he took several long swallows, a satisfied warmth spreading across his face as he proclaimed it excellent stuff. Caleb, taking a liking to the man's bold and straightforward manner, commented that it was impressive to spend 3 days chasing a single horse. Rain patted the horse again, explaining that this was no ordinary animal. He pointed to its ears, shaped like a wolf's, and its intelligent eyes, attesting to its incredible stamina and speed. He said he'd been watching this colt for a year, but had never been able to get close to the herd until now. Sean remarked that Rain must be truly obsessed with horses. Rain shook his head, a shadow of sadness crossing his face. He said it was just something to do. He had actually come to the plains hoping to find a gerfalcon but had no luck. Finding the horse was a consolation. He admitted that in his hands, such a fine animal would likely be wasted. Caleb's expression sharpened. He asked why Rain needed a gerfalcon. Rain seemed hesitant to explain, merely shaking his head and sighing that it was a matter of life and death, and that was his fate. Caleb then told him that, as it happened, he had a gerfalcon in his possession. He offered it to Rain if he was interested. He explained that, coincidentally, a white-to-lone gerfalcon had been among the gifts presented by the 3 clans. Caleb had originally intended to send it back to the capital for his father, but seeing Rain's predicament, he made the generous offer on the spot. He turned to one of his guards and instructed him to ride back immediately and bring the falcon. Rain's face showed a mix of intense desire and profound hesitation. It was clear he desperately wanted the bird but was wary of accepting such a valuable gift. After a moment, he gritted his teeth and said that Caleb was clearly not an ordinary person. He knew how precious a gerfalcon was and felt he shouldn't accept it without offering something in return. He explained that he needed the falcon to save someone's life. With that, he offered Caleb the red stallion, saying that while it couldn't compare to the falcon's value, it was still a rare and magnificent horse. Hearing that a life was at stake, Caleb smiled and said that if it could save someone, then he must take it. He admitted he wasn't much of a hunter and the falcon, a gift to him, served him little purpose. He suggested that their meeting was fate, and that destiny had intended for Rain to have the falcon to save this person. He insisted that Rain had earned the horse through great effort and he wouldn't deprive him of it. Rain studied Caleb for a long moment, then suddenly dismounted and knelt. He declared that he would never forget this great kindness and would repay it one day if he had the chance. He explained that his current circumstances were constrained, but otherwise, he would gladly serve Caleb. Caleb quickly dismounted and helped him up, telling him such formality was unnecessary between men of character. Rain stood and led the red horse to Caleb, insisting he take it. He confessed frankly that he was in financial straits and couldn't afford to properly care for such a fine animal. It would be a waste. He could see that Caleb was a man of means and generosity who would not let the horse's potential be squandered. Caleb, impressed by his honesty, agreed to accept it. He had his men take the horse, and then he listened patiently as Rain gave detailed instructions on its care, asking questions as if genuinely interested. A short while later, the guard returned with the gerfalcon in a cage. Rain looked inside and saw a magnificent bird with pristine white feathers and jade-colored talons, a truly top-tier specimen. His heart leaped, but a flicker of suspicion crossed his face. His expression changed slightly as he looked at Caleb, realizing that only someone of immense wealth and influence could possess such a creature. He thanked Caleb profusely and asked how he could find him in the future. Caleb pointed to Sean and said he could always find him at the Commonwealth security firm by asking for Chief Fargo. If he was out on a job, he could leave a message. Rain was overjoyed. Hearing the name of a security firm, he assumed the young man was the son of its wealthy owner, which dispelled some of his suspicions. It made sense that someone in that line of work would have the connections to acquire such a bird. He was in a hurry, so he took the cage, mounted his original horse, and with a final nod of thanks, rode off. As evening approached, Caleb led his party back to the main encampment. On the way, Sean commented that Rain seemed like a good man and wondered what he needed the falcon for. He remarked that such birds were usually reserved for the highest echelons of power and that Caleb had been truly generous to part with it. Caleb explained his theory. He suspected Rain had a relative who had been convicted of a serious crime. He'd heard that in the border territories, convicts exiled for breaking the law could earn a pardon by capturing and presenting a gerfalcon to the state. These birds were not something one could simply buy, and since Rain seemed poor, he was likely desperate enough to try capturing one himself. Sean was astonished. He realized now why Caleb hadn't asked any questions. But he wondered why Rain hadn't just told them the truth. With Caleb's influence in the region, securing a pardon would have been a simple matter, saving him the falcon. Caleb replied sternly that a crime is punished according to the law. Unless there was a miscarriage of justice, he would not use his power to interfere with legal verdicts. If the law provided a path to redemption through the falcon, then he would rather give him the bird than subvert the legal process. Sean was taken aback, a newfound respect for Caleb dawning on him. He mused that military discipline worked the same way. If you let one infraction slide, you could never command effectively again. Caleb glanced at Sean with a faint smile but said nothing. Sean's heart skipped a beat, wondering if his own hidden identity had been discovered. He watched Caleb ride on, seemingly unconcerned, as he turned to speak to Liam. He instructed Liam to ensure the new horse was well cared for. Liam acknowledged the order, observing that the gloom that had clung to Caleb in the capital was gone. He thought that Caleb's mother had been right. Being a regional governor suited him. Back in the capital as the designated heir, he had been crushed under the weight of expectation. Here, with no one to answer to, he was free. He was meeting more people, his world was expanding. This was where he was meant to be. Caleb, oblivious to Liam's thoughts, was in high spirits. He turned to Sean and joked that the 3 clans had also gifted him 20 beautiful women, and he would give one to him. Sean, horrified, stammered his refusal, saying he couldn't handle such exotic tastes and insisted Caleb should enjoy them himself. Caleb burst into a hearty laugh, a rare, unburdened sound they had not heard since he left the capital. That evening there was another feast. The next day, they began the journey back to the governor's mansion. The return trip was uneventful, but upon their arrival, Caleb was immediately buried under a mountain of administrative work. Being a diligent man, he personally reviewed every document. Liam was relieved that Caleb was too busy to notice his absence. After cataloging all the items brought back from the tour, he was eager to get back to his own business ventures. A few days later, while reviewing the official register of gifts received from the various counties for an upcoming national holiday, Liam saw it. The white-feathered jade-talon gerfalcon, the very one Caleb had given to Rain. He felt a jolt. If Rain had needed it to redeem someone, it should have been submitted to a local county office and recorded as such. He asked the clerk in charge of the inventory where the bird had come from. The clerk consulted the ledger and reported that it was a gift from the household of Deputy Director Ray Armour, delivered personally by his eldest legitimate son. Liam's brow furrowed. Why would it come from Ray Armour? The clerk, eager to please, added that it was a testament to Director Armour's loyalty and that his son, who held an honorary commission in the reserve, had delivered it himself. When Liam asked for the son's name, the clerk confirmed it was Mason Armour. Liam pondered this for a while but couldn't make sense of it. He left the mansion and went straight to the Commonwealth Security Office. Sean was there, overseeing the training of new recruits. He saw Liam and greeted him warmly, mentioning he was planning a trip back to the capital in a few days and asking if Liam needed anything delivered. Liam said no, but asked him to keep his ears open for any political shifts. Then he got to the point. He asked if Rain had ever contacted him. Sean shook his head and, seeing Liam's expression, asked if something was wrong. Liam explained how the gerfalcon had reappeared among the official gifts. Sean was bewildered. He wondered if they were all part of the same family, since they shared a last name. But he couldn't understand why Rain would have seemed so desperate to save someone if his goal was just to curry favor for his family. Liam agreed that it didn't add up. If Caleb found out, he would surely ask questions. He decided it was better to investigate quietly first. Sean said he would send someone to ask around. Not wanting to wait idly, Liam told Sean to send word to his private residence once he had information. He had purchased a small, quiet townhouse not far from the governor's mansion, a 3-story building on a secluded side street, for times when he needed to conduct business or simply be away. He was there sorting through some accounts when Sean arrived, his face clouded with anger. Sean reported that his sources had uncovered the whole story. Ray Armour had a vast and complicated family, with numerous illegitimate children from various affairs. Rain was the son of one of his mistresses, a tribal woman, and his status in the family was extremely low. He wasn't even officially listed in the family records. The inside story was that one of Ray Armour's illegitimate sons had injured the eldest son, Mason, and was being punished for it, currently under house arrest. Liam listened to the sordid family drama and recalled how readily Armour had accepted Caleb's offer of Timothy's daughter. The man's private life was clearly a tangled mess. He suggested they pay a visit to Rain. Sean was confused, asking how they could see him when he was under house arrest. He thought it would be better to just tell Caleb and let him handle it. But Liam believed there was more to the story and that Rain must have his reasons for not speaking up. Ray Armour had been a powerful figure in the region for years. Caleb was the newcomer, and Armour was his deputy director. Alienating him over this matter would be unwise. Furthermore, given Caleb's delicate political situation, it was best he not get directly involved. Sean, frustrated by the complexities, asked what they should do. Liam said he had a plan. He changed his clothes and wrote a formal note. He told Sean to have a messenger deliver it to the Armour residence, saying he would go himself later that evening. Sean looked at the note and asked if he was really going to use his official title as Deputy Chief of Staff to the governor to request a meeting. Liam smiled, explaining that Armour, though a military man, was a seasoned political operator. As Caleb's personal aide, Armour would most likely assume he was there on Caleb's behalf and would certainly grant him an audience. That evening, Liam, dressed in a simple but well-made suit, arrived at the deputy director's mansion. As expected, Ray Armour himself came out to greet him, his face wreathed in smiles. He welcomed Liam effusively, asking what he could do for him and whether there was a message from the governor. He personally escorted Liam into a formal sitting room, the very picture of gracious hospitality. Liam remained polite but formal. He explained that while logging the official gifts that day, he had come across a particularly rare gerfalcon. He had heard it was a contribution from Armour's household and had a few questions about it. Armour's expression flickered. He immediately suspected a shakedown. He explained that his son had gone to great lengths to acquire the bird, and knowing how rare it was, he had immediately submitted it as a gift for the upcoming national holiday, not daring to keep such a treasure for himself. Liam smiled and said that the governor often praised the director's loyalty. He then casually mentioned that the governor had also recently received a gerfalcon as a gift from the 3 clans, one with white feathers and jade talons. Armour's heart began to pound. He knew the clans had presented gifts, many of which Caleb had distributed among his staff, but he had never seen the official manifest and had no idea it included another gerfalcon. He listened as Liam continued, recounting the story of their ride on the prairie, their encounter with a courageous young horseman named Rain, and how the governor, known for his generosity, had gifted his own falcon to the young man upon hearing he needed it to save a life. Liam then looked at Armour and said that he was now quite confused as to how a falcon given away to save a life had ended up as a gift from the Armour household. He added that the falcon itself was a small matter, but the governor had been pleased to think it would save a life, and he would surely be disappointed to see it again under these circumstances. Sweat beaded on Armour's forehead. He shot to his feet and begged for Liam's guidance. He concocted a story about a mistress whose brother had gotten into trouble with a tribal chief, and his foolish son, Rain, had gone to get the falcon to ransom him. He claimed his eldest son, Mason, had found the bird and, not knowing its origin and thinking only of service to the governor, had submitted it as a gift. Liam listened with a placid smile, thinking that Armor was a terrible liar. He knew perfectly well that Armor wouldn't lift a finger for the family of a low-status mistress. Liam let him finish, then said he had a solution that would benefit everyone. He suggested that Armor send an envoy with a generous gift to ransom the mistress's brother himself. The gerfalcon would then be unnecessary. He could then submit a report to the governor explaining the whole affair as a beautiful story of family devotion. The son, driven by filial piety, obtains a rare falcon. The father, ever loyal, dares not keep such a treasure for himself and presents it to the state. In this telling, the son is virtuous, the father is loyal, and the governor is benevolent. When the gift is sent to the capital, the story behind it would surely delight the powers that be. It was, Liam concluded, a perfect outcome. Armor listened, his face transforming from panic to delight. He bowed deeply to Liam, praising his renowned intelligence and promising to do exactly as he suggested. Liam, his work done, excused himself. As he left, Armor discreetly slipped a thick envelope of cash into his hand, a token of appreciation. Liam accepted it without protest. The next day, Ray Armor submitted his report to Caleb. Caleb, reading the highly embellished story, was astonished by the series of coincidences. He summoned Rain, who, having been thoroughly coached by his father, played his part perfectly. What had been a sordid tale of sibling rivalry became a heartwarming saga of filial piety and selfless loyalty. Pleased, Caleb had the story documented and the gerfalcon sent under guard to the capital as a special gift for his father. With the matter settled, Caleb felt a sense of satisfaction and wanted to share the amusing story with someone who had been there at the beginning. He naturally thought of Liam. But when he asked for him, his chief of staff, Ian, reported that Liam had taken sick leave. Caleb was surprised and asked about the illness. Ian explained it was just a common cold and that Liam was staying at his private residence to avoid spreading germs. Caleb decided on a whim to visit him. Ian advised against it, but Caleb, who had grown more independent since leaving the capital, waved off his concerns. He felt a strange mix of annoyance and curiosity. A private residence. It seemed Liam's world was expanding, his focus drifting away from him. He instructed his driver to take him to Liam's townhouse, unannounced. He joked to Ian that they would go and see if he was truly sick. If he was faking it, he would be punished severely. Liam was indeed sick. The sharp temperature changes of the high plains autumn had caught up with him. He was feverish and miserable, but still trying to manage his business affairs, dictating instructions while an associate performed acupressure on his back. Caleb walked in unannounced and found the courtyard filled with wild chrysanthemums, a chaotic but charming scene. He entered the house just in time to overhear a loud conversation. It was Sean, questioning Liam's business strategy, asking why he was shipping cheap local goods like wolfberries and dried vegetables back to the capital instead of high-profit items like furs and pearls. Liam's voice, hoarse and nasal, patiently explained the market dynamics, the established supply chains of the elite, and the profitability of selling novelty goods to the middle class during the holiday season. He detailed his plan to leverage Caleb's gift of a carved stone screen to create a market trend for the very stones Sean was dismissing. Caleb, listening from behind the curtain, couldn't help but smile. He stepped into the room, announcing with amusement that Liam had even managed to factor him and his father into his business calculations. The three men in the room froze. Liam, shirtless on the bed for his treatment, scrambled to cover himself, his face flushed, his eyes watery from the fever, looking utterly flustered and vulnerable. Caleb felt a pang of sympathy mixed with amusement. He placed a hand on Liam's shoulder, telling him to stay put. He felt his forehead and confirmed the fever, his earlier suspicion of malingering evaporating. He suggested Liam return to the governor's mansion to recover properly, but Liam protested, saying it was easier to manage his affairs from outside. Caleb's mood soured instantly. He asked what affairs could possibly be so important, his voice taking on a cold edge. He accused Liam of growing distant, of thinking he no longer needed to answer to him. The room fell into a tense silence. Just then, a servant sent by Rain arrived at the door, asking for Liam. The servant, a simple young man, relayed Rain's profound thanks to Liam for his intervention, detailing how his situation had improved dramatically since Liam had mediated the family dispute. The servant's innocent words laid Liam's entire scheme bare. The air in the room grew thick with unspoken fury. Caleb's face was a mask of cold anger. He said, his voice dangerously quiet, that they all treated him like a figurehead, paying lip service while doing exactly as they pleased. With a sweep of his arm, he sent a tray of medicine and tea crashing to the floor. Then he turned and stormed out of the house. Moments later, several of the governor's staff entered and, on Caleb's explicit orders, escorted Liam back to the mansion, where he was confined to his quarters to recover. For days, Liam was kept in isolation. His illness was treated with bland broths and bitter medicines. Once he recovered, the menu changed to lavish but equally bland dishes, and he was still not permitted to leave his rooms. He knew Caleb was truly angry this time. He tried several times to see him but was denied. He finally managed to speak with Ian, who told him frankly that he had overstepped. He pointed out that while Liam's intentions might have been good, his actions could be interpreted as conspiring with an outside official to deceive his superior. He told Liam that Caleb's current leniency was a testament to his affection for him. Ian advised him to wait until the governor's anger had cooled and then to offer a sincere apology. Liam reflected and knew Ian was right. He had been arrogant, treating Caleb not as his superior but as a piece on his own chessboard. He waited for his opportunity. Hearing that Caleb had returned from a long ride in the mountains and was in the residence's private bathhouse, he went there. He found Caleb relaxing in the steam-filled room. Without a word, Liam took a towel and began to wash his back, his touch firm and professional. Caleb let him, his eyes closed. Liam worked silently, massaging his shoulders, his back, his legs, until his own arms ached. When he was finished, Caleb sat up, and Liam knelt before him, his head bowed, awaiting his judgment. The silence stretched on. Finally, Caleb spoke, his voice a mix of anger and resignation. He asked Liam if he thought so little of him, if he believed he was incapable of handling his own affairs. He spoke of his own insecurities, his feelings of failure since being pushed out of the capital, the fear that everyone, even those closest to him, saw him as a weakling living on borrowed time. Liam listened, and then he looked up, meeting Caleb's gaze directly. He said that Caleb was destined for great things, to govern nations, not to be bogged down in petty political maneuvering. He and others, he explained, took care of the messy, unpleasant tasks so that Caleb could remain above it all, to preserve his integrity, his essence of pure gold. They did it so Caleb could be free to pursue his own passions, unburdened by the sordid realities of power. Caleb stared at him, taken aback by the raw sincerity in his eyes. He saw not a manipulative subordinate but someone offering a strange, fierce form of devotion. The gaze was so earnest, so full of unwavering belief, that Caleb, for the first time, felt a pang of shame. He suddenly stood up and left the bathhouse, leaving Liam alone in the steam. That evening, however, One of Caleb's attendants brought a bottle of rare bourbon to Liam's room. The message was simple. His sick leave was over, but he was to be more mindful of his duties in the future. Freed from his confinement, Liam threw himself back into his work. Caleb, for his part, seemed to have forgotten the incident, even assigning 2 young aides to assist Liam at his townhouse, a gesture that was both a helping hand and a subtle reminder of who was in charge. One crisp autumn day, Caleb decided to act on his plan to recruit the strategist Leo Wenning. He traveled to the Wolf-Tooth Mountains with a small retinue, including Liam. After a grueling climb, they found Wenning in a dilapidated library at the mountain's peak. The man was eccentric and sharp-tongued, immediately comparing Caleb's political exile to that of a historical prince who met a tragic end. Caleb, however, remained unruffled, calmly debating history with him. Impressed, Wenning issued a challenge. He would join Caleb's service if Caleb could rebuild the mountaintop library without levying new taxes or conscripting labor. The impossible task fell to Liam. For weeks, he planned and calculated. While Caleb was away in the capital for a state ceremony, winter descended on the plains. Liam put his plan into action. He had his crews build a series of pulley systems running from the base of the mountain to the summit. When the first heavy snow fell and the ground froze solid, they poured water down the prepared paths, creating long, slick ice slides. Heavy materials, stone and timber, were loaded onto sleds and, with the aid of the pulleys, hauled up the icy tracks by teams of well-paid, well-fed workers. The work was difficult but efficient, and far less dangerous than carrying the loads on their backs. Leo Wenning watched the whole process with a mixture of awe and amusement. He would often stand beside Liam on the snowy slopes, making small talk. One afternoon, as they observed the steady progress, Wenning commented on Liam's ingenuity. Liam, his face shielded from the biting wind, simply replied that the plans were all the governor's. He was merely the supervisor. Wenning just chuckled, knowing better. In the distance, a figure appeared, bundled in a heavy, dark fur coat. It was Caleb, returned from the capital. He was riding not a horse, but one of the very sleds used to transport stone. Pulled smoothly up the ice slide by a team of his guards, a look of profound satisfaction on his face.